Good Sunday morning, everyone. Welcome into today's daily Bible reading for November the 6th. Today we are reading together. We're actually beginning Elihu's angry response, as the subheading of my Bible says here in Job chapter 32. It seems that Elihu has been sitting, I guess he's been here in the scene. Although he is not mentioned up until this point, the text is going to tell us that he had waited to speak to Job. And it's going to tell us that he did that because everybody was older than him. He seems to be a younger guy. And he's been sitting quietly by. He has just been observing. He's been seeing everything that's taken place. He has heard the wrestling that Job has had, and he's heard the allegations against Job that have been made by these three men who are described here as his three friends. And Elihu is going to really take issue with everyone involved. He has not appreciated at all the bad argumentation that he has deemed as having been given by Job's three friends. And he's going to go about with a different type of reasoning in dealing with Job. We're going to note that as we go throughout the next 6 chapters, beginning here in chapter 32 with Elihu. So let me go ahead and get the text up on the screen for us. Remember, this is the last section here in Job's writing before God is going to begin speaking in chapter 38. He's going to speak in chapter 38, 39, 40, and 41. Then chapter 42 is going to be the conclusion of everything. But here in chapter 32, again, we're going to see the beginning of Elihu's angry response. Let's begin reading here in verse number 1. So these three men quit answering Job. And then here's an interesting note. Because he was righteous in his own eyes, I'm assuming that is speaking to the way that they felt. They believed that he was righteous in his own eyes. Because again, I guess just the bottom line, he was being righteous. He's described that way. He was righteous in his own eyes. He was judging himself accurately. So maybe that's the point here, is that he was being true with how he spoke, but from their perspective, he was being arrogant in what he was doing. So there's kind of that note at this point. So they're not speaking to him. They say, "Oh, you're just being righteous in your own eyes," and we're sitting here saying, "Well, yeah, he's being righteous in his own eyes because he has been a righteous man." The accusations that you've been throwing at him are not founded. They're not right. So that seems to be where this is right now. There is a stalemate now. Nobody's talking. The three friends are not talking. These three men are not talking. Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, they're not speaking. Job is not speaking anymore. It's kind of a quiet moment, it seems. But then here comes Elihu, who is the son of Barachel, the Buzite, from the family of Ram. The text says, it's going to stay 4 times here in these next few verses. He became angry. Number 1, he became angry. He was angry, number 2, at Job because he had justified himself rather than God. He was also angry, number 3, at Job's friends because they had failed to refute him and yet had condemned him. Now Elihu had waited to speak to Job because they were all older than he. But when he saw that the 3 men could not answer Job, he became angry. There's the 4th time mentioned that he's angry. So I don't know if you could tell or not, but Elihu's angry. He's angry. Why is he angry? He's angry here because he feels as if Job is justifying himself rather than God. Job's trying to excuse himself or justify himself. When again, I think from our perspective, he's just being honest about the reality of everything. But Elihu doesn't like the way he's speaking. He also doesn't appreciate the prosecution, you might say. He doesn't appreciate the defense of Job. He does not appreciate the prosecution of Job's 3 friends, because instead of actually addressing his arguments, all they try to do is condemn him. They had failed to refute him. So I guess from Elihu's standpoint, they had failed to refute his justifying of himself rather than God. And then they had condemned him of things that just were not true. So all of this leads us to this point where in these first 5 verses, we're told 4 times that Elihu is not hangry. Maybe he was angry. I don't know. But he was angry. He was angry. So here is the opening statement that he's going to give here in the rest of chapter 32 before he continues on in chapter 33. Chapter 33 subheading tells us that he's going to confront Job specifically. This is basically his opening statement, just addressing everybody involved. So Job chapter 32 and verse number 6. So Elihu, son of Barachel, the Buzite, replied, I am young in years, while you are old. Therefore I was timid and afraid to tell you what I know. I thought that age should speak and maturity should teach wisdom. But it is the spirit in a person, the breath from the Almighty, that gives anyone understanding. It is not only the old who are wise, or the elderly who understand how to judge. Therefore, I say, listen to me. I too will declare what I know. Look, I waited for your conclusions. I listened to your insights as you sought for words. I paid close attention to you. Yet no one proved Job wrong. Not one of you refuted his arguments. So do not claim we have found wisdom. Let God deal with him, not man. But Job has not directed his argument to me, and I will not respond to him with your arguments. Job's friends are dismayed and can no longer answer. Words have left them. Should I continue to wait now that they are silent? Now that they stand there and no longer answer? I too will answer. Yes, I will tell what I know. For I am full of words, and my spirit compels me to speak. My heart is like unvented wine. It is about to burst like new wineskins. I must speak so that I can find relief. I must open my lips and respond. I will be partial to no one. I will not give anyone an undeserved title, for I do not know how to give such titles. Otherwise my maker would remove me in an instant. Job chapter 32. Elihu, as he inserts himself into this discussion, recognizes that yes, he is young, and he thought that because he was young, he didn't need to speak. He thought that, if I want to be wise, I just have to wait to grow older. But now he realizes that just because somebody is older, like Job and his friends, just because they're older doesn't mean they're wise. He's listened to their arguments. He's weighed everything that they've said. And he's saying, the prosecution, y'all stink. Y'all didn't do a good job. You did not prove Job wrong. And not one of you refuted his arguments. You didn't wrestle with him about trying to understand exactly what's going on. You just threw things against the wall. You just made baseless accusations. You tried to malign his character without actually trying to work with him through this. So you did not do a good job. You claim to have found wisdom, but you have not found wisdom at all. So whenever I speak to Job, I'm not going to make the same arguments that you have made. I'm not going to do that. Because Elihu does here, he speaks to having the feeling of being compelled to speak up in this moment. He feels like he has to say something. He feels as if he has something to share. Therefore, I must speak so that I can find relief. I must open my lips and respond. And I will be partial to no one. And I'm not going to give anyone an undeserved title. He says, I'm not going to show favoritism. I'm just going to shoot straight. I'm going to tell you exactly how I see things. I'm not going to try to please one or the other. I'm not going to try to do anything except just be honest in the situation. So I can just say straight off the bat, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. That should be the way that we deal in any type of situation in which there is some sort of argumentation going on, in which there is a discourse or debate. We should strive, and I think this is what I'm going to take away from chapter 32, we should strive to be honest. We need to do everything we can to stop coming from a particular angle or trying to prove ourselves or disprove someone else. We need to be people who are concerned with the truth, and who are simply trying to find truth in discourse and debate and argument, not trying to justify ourselves. Remember, that's what he feels that Job is doing. Job is trying to justify himself. He's saying, I'm not going to try to justify anybody. I'm just going to try to get to the truth and speak for God. Now, I think there are some instances in which he does that throughout this text, but I think there's some instances as well in which he doesn't even say the right thing. I'm trying to recall correctly if Elihu is also chastised by God in chapter 42. I'm going to look real fast and see if he is even addressed in chapter 42. No, Elihu's just kind of ignored, I guess, towards the end. No one really says anything about him. So Be that as it may, we'll continue on tomorrow on Monday, the 7th, looking at Elihu as he confronts Job in chapter 33. Chapter 33 ends, be quiet, or he said it ends with, if not, which we'll get to what he's referring to there, but listen to me, be quiet, and I will teach you wisdom. That's always interesting whenever someone feels as if they have the monopoly on wisdom, and I am the one that can share with you wisdom. We'll see whether or not he's actually able to share wisdom with Job, or if he himself is off base in his discussions. But again, taken away from here, this text in chapter 32, just make sure that we are people who are concerned with truth. Don't show favoritism. Don't be impartial, or excuse me, don't be partial, but be impartial. Be fair, and just seek truth. And that is always the best thing that we can be looking for in any sort of discourse, debate, or argument. Thank you so much for tuning into this reading on this Good Sunday, as we are getting ready to gather together for our Bible studies and our worship assembly. I'm going to be helping out Dave in the adult class. My classes are going to come up front, and we're going to be in the adult class today as I help fill in for Dave while he is under the weather. We'll do a review of where everyone has been, where the class has been up into chapter 4. We'll have a little bit of discussion in chapter 4 today, beginning in verse 11, talking about the teaching aspect of those who might serve as pastors within a local church. Then we'll look at a little bit more of the text there as well. Then whenever we get into the assembly, we're going to study together from Matthew's gospel, looking at the account of Jesus walking on the water and calling Peter to come walk on the water with him. And what happens whenever Peter takes his eyes off of Jesus? We're going to think about that for a little bit and use this as the text to help us learn a little bit about overcoming the fear of failure. We're going to think about that idea today, and very much looking forward to seeing everyone here in just a little while. Again, please continue to pray for our sick. Hopefully we'll get to see a few of them that were out this past week back with us here in a little while. Again, thanks for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Take care, and God bless.